The Jets head up to Foxboro to take on the Patriots. It has all the makings of a get-right game for the Jets, unless, of course, it doesn't. Let's break it down today on Locked On Jets.
You are Locked On Jets, your daily New York Jets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. This is the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's Friday, October 25th, 2024, and I'm your host, John B. from GangGreenNation.com. Thanking you so much for making the show your first listen or first watch every day. Big shout out to you everydayers. This is a daily podcast covering the New York Jets. We have new episodes each day through the week, Monday through Friday, and today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Well, we have a game to preview today. The Jets are up in Foxboro, their annual trip to New England to take on the hated New England Patriots. Week 8 action. Kickoff time scheduled 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday from Foxboro. I think it's fair to say both teams really, really need a win. The Jets have not won since the first meeting between these teams in Week 3. That feels like a really long time ago. And the Patriots have not won a game since Week 1. So this is 2-5 versus 1-6. I think at the start of the season, most people were expecting the Patriots to be a bottom of the league team. I don't think many people were expecting the Jets to be 2-5. And I think it's clear, look, if the Jets fall to 2-6, whatever faint playoff hopes they might have, and I'm not a big optimist on this, are gone. And this team will be in complete free fall. This would be a horrifically bad loss. There's really just no excuse for the Jets to lose this game. We saw what they did to the Patriots the first time these teams met. And going into that game, I thought the Jets would win. But I was a little worried because that was Week 3. The Patriots had done like a decent job the first 2 weeks. They beat Cincinnati. They played Seattle tougher than people thought. Eventually, though, their lack of talent started to show up. And it started to show up in Week 3 when the Jets dismantled them. And it was only 5 weeks ago. I said it yesterday when we did our crossover with Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots. It feels like it was 5 years ago because after that game, all the praise the Jets got, and deservedly so. They played a magnificent game. And you know what? You can play the worst opponent in the NFL. You dominate them like that, you deserve praise. And your fans should be optimistic when that comes in Week 3. Unfortunately, more and more, it's looking like the high point of the Jets season. I don't even want to think about getting this season back on track because let's be honest, a win on Sunday does not put the season back on track. It would give the Jets 3 wins. All 3 wins are against teams that currently have 1 victory. So a win against the Patriots, that's not really telling us anything about the Jets at this point. A loss, though, would be catastrophic. If the Jets fall to 2-6, this becomes like one of those all-time disaster seasons when you factor in the big names on this team, when you factor in the expectations, when you factor in all the team-building difficulties the Jets are going to have going forward. This would be just a catastrophic loss. The good news is that a loss is unlikely. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you a loss is impossible because when you're playing the way the Jets are, you could lose to anybody. Any given Sunday, all that. What I will say is that one of my complaints, you've heard it over and over on the show this year, is that not just that the Jets are losing, but it's how they look as they're losing. And I keep hearing the argument, well, we're a couple of plays away from being 5-2. Maybe if we had a better kicker, we win a couple of games. A play here, a play there. A little bit better luck. If we have better receivers, we win a couple games. Well, you know what? That doesn't really do you a lot of good. But beyond that, the Jets weren't in all these games outside of the New England. They won the New England game in a blowout, but the other games the Jets have lost this year, the blowout in San Francisco, the blowout in Pittsburgh, other games, the loss to Denver, the loss to Minnesota, the loss to Buffalo, those 3 games in particular. They weren't in those games because the Jets played great. They were in those games because the other teams played pretty shaky games. And I think in all 3 of those games, Denver, Minnesota, Buffalo, the other team tried to give the Jets the game, and the Jets weren't good enough to take it away. And the game against Tennessee Week 2, it was not a high caliber performance for the Jets. Here's the good news. This Patriots team is really, really lacking in talent. And as badly as the Jets are playing right now, and as much turmoil as this team is in, because this week we got a whole new round of stuff. Davante Adams shows up and he already doesn't like the culture. Davante Adams was coming from a Raiders team falling apart. Apparently, felt compelled to give his locker room speech because he didn't like the culture of the Jets. And this is a guy coming from a Raiders team that's in complete disarray. He shows up here and his first comments, man, this culture is a little shaky right now. It tells you a lot about where the Jets are. But as bad as things are for the Jets right now, they're worse in New England. Patriots are 1-6, Jets are 2-5. But beyond that, we've heard all week about Gerard Mayo. Is he calling his team soft? There's just a general lack of talent. And by the way, the Patriots just played in London. And that trip back from London, that's a tough one. It's tough to believe that the Patriots did not take their bye this week, and instead they get a Jets team. And you know what? I don't even know like why they would choose to play this game, because the Jets were supposed to be good at the start of the year. So it's not like you looked at this like an easy game. The Jets were supposed to be a tough opponent this season, and the Patriots did not take their bye. Instead, they get the Jets. This is a game where even if the Jets play at the level they played against most of the year, even if they play the way they played against the San Francisco 49ers or the Tennessee Titans or the Denver Broncos or the Minnesota Vikings or the Buffalo Bills or the Pittsburgh, like any of these games where the Jets played poorly, the only time the Jets have really played at a high level this year was the first meeting between these teams. But if the Jets play at the level they played in any of the other 6 games, they still should win, because this Patriots team is just fundamentally very, very untalented. Now, again, maybe you run into a really hot game from New England. Ahead on the show, we're going to talk about the scenarios that could lead to a Patriots win. But even like a shaky Jets performance, look, those performances aren't going to be good enough to win all the games going forward, but they're going to be good. It should be good enough to beat the Patriots, because it's just a team lacking in talent. Now, we know they have the rookie quarterback, but I mean, you can look at this receiver group. I mean, right now, their go-to guy in the receiving game is probably Hunter Henry. And if it's not, it's Demario Douglas. I mean, this is just not a very dangerous team. It's a team that really has issues on the offensive side of the ball, really struggling to move the ball. And we saw that in the first meeting where the Patriots offense, now that was with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, of course, not Drake Maye, but that Patriots offense looked horrible in that game. It was kind of the start of the beginning of a stretch where the Jets faced some offenses that couldn't do a whole lot, and the Jets kind of elevated their defensive rankings, maybe artificially. Last 2 weeks, Jets defense hasn't been very good, but even this Jets defense in its current state was able to handle the Patriots pretty well in the first meeting between these games. And on the defensive side of the ball, well, not like New England's great there either. At the moment, this defense allowing 25 points a game, that's only 23rd best in the NFL, and especially in the run game. And they have been gashed in the run game of late. I mean, the last 5 games that they've played, they gave up 133 yards on the ground to the Jets, 148 to San Francisco, 193 to Miami, 192 to Houston, 171 to Jacksonville. And I don't know if you watched that game in London, you saw the one series where the Jaguars just wouldn't stop running the ball because the Patriots couldn't stop them. This is a really dreadful New England team. And of course, that means, look, if the Jets lose this game, it's a catastrophic loss. And what slim hopes the Jets may have of salvaging the season go out the window. Part of the Patriots being so bad, again, means that a victory doesn't really fix anything. I mean, I don't think you can come out of this game from a victory saying anything other than 3-5 is better than 2-6. But everything is here for the Jets to at least get a win. And if they are going to start coming back, this is where you have to start. You don't choose the schedule, but if you had to start 2-5 and you needed a win to try and start digging yourself out, and I don't even want to think in these terms because the Jets have so far to go and they have so many issues. But if you had to dig yourself out of a 2-5 hole, this would be a good place to start, because it starts with a win. And there's no guarantees in the NFL. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible for the Jets to lose this game. Anybody can beat anybody in the NFL. Every year you see really, really bad teams beat really, really good teams sometimes. This Jets team is not a really, really good team. But the talent discrepancy, even with this Jets roster not being anywhere near as talented as a lot of us thought it would be heading into the season, the talent discrepancy is pretty large. And this has all the makings of a game that at least the Jets should be able to start to turn things around. Now, here on the Locked On Jets podcast, we'll talk about how they turn it around. I think the Jets have a lot of paths to victory in this game. And I think there's some things that they can probably start turning the page on, areas where they've struggled that maybe they can start to build a little momentum at. And we'll talk about what they are as we continue here on this Friday game preview edition of Locked On Jets. Our episode of Locked On Jets today is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less than on at least 2 players for a shot up to win 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And Prize Picks is the best way to make real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play $5. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL. It's one word with no space, LOCKEDONNFL, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode of Locked On Jets is also brought to you by ZBiotics. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by ZBiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to take your ZBiotics, make your ZBiotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how you use it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jets your first listen or first watch every day. Big shout out to you everydayers. This is the daily podcast covering the New York Jets with new episodes each day through the week, Monday through Friday. Jets in Foxboro this weekend for a game against the Patriots. 1 o'clock Eastern time is the kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Jets are favored in this game. It's tough to believe the Jets are favored by a touchdown going to New England. I mean, for so many years, for 2 decades, a trip to New England, you go in there thinking, man, I don't think we have much of a shot. Now the Jets are going into New England favored by 7 points because the Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And look, in a bad season for the Jets, the Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL. It's a very fun sentence to say. But this is a game that the Jets really need to win. Fortunately, they really on paper should win this game. I think one of the most important things for the Jets, I mentioned this yesterday when I spoke with Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots, getting off to a good start in this game, I think is really, really important for this team. I think in part because, again, if this is going to be like, I don't even want to talk about this team turning it around. I keep saying that because I really don't, because this team has so far to go. But if you're going to start turning around, a game like this can be a confidence builder. And look, and I know in the NFL you always take a win, but the Jets really need to go out there and play like they did week 3, because that was the one time all season they've played at a high level. And I know I just spent a segment telling you they can afford to not play that well and still win. But if we're thinking bigger picture right now, if we're thinking how do we get this season back on track, a big performance would certainly help. But beyond that, I think when you're playing an opponent like New England, who's kind of in a similar situation to the Jets right now, and you're in a really rough situation. It feels like nothing can go right for your team. You always want to put a team like that behind the 8 ball by jumping out to an early lead, because you just start to get the sense, here we go again, and especially when there's turmoil in the locker room. And look, I guess you could say the reverse of this is true for the Jets. If the Patriots take an early lead in this game, we may have a sense of, oh my goodness. But the Patriots have a rookie quarterback in this game. And look, if you've been a Jets fan the last, 15, 16 years, we've seen a lot of this with the young quarterbacks. And unfortunately for the Jets, none of them have worked out for them. Now, a couple of young quarterbacks that the Jets got rid of who were disappointing here are having better seasons. They've kind of turned their careers around, most notably Geno Smith in Seattle. But, even if you go look across the NFL, even the young quarterbacks who succeed, you never want to put too much on their plate. There really aren't that many quarterbacks who are ready to step in as a rookie and carry their team. And if the Jets jump out to an early, 10-point lead or so, this really takes the Patriots out of what they want to do, because the Patriots are a team that more than anything wants to establish the run. And they also want to avoid putting Drake Maye in a situation where he's got to win the game. You want, I feel like sometimes we go into generic NFL studio show talk when I speak in these terms, but you do want a rookie quarterback to have to manage the game. You don't want to have to put him in situations where he's kind of behind the 8 ball, where the Jets can kind of try and crank up their pass rush. I mean, though the pass rush hasn't been terribly effective in recent weeks, but Hassan Reddick is back this week. You'll have Hassan Reddick coming at you. You'll have Will McDonald coming at you. You don't want to put Drake Maye into a situation, if you're the Patriots. If you're the Jets, you want him in this situation. But Drake Maye in a situation where he's got to go out and do too much, where the running game's off the table because you're behind by multiple scores early. So I think it's one of the things that we've seen that's been an improvement for the Jets since Todd Downing took over for Nathaniel Hackett. And I've been a skeptic of how much Downing could change, and I think justifiably so. Aaron Rodgers is in control of a lot of this offense at the line of scrimmage. A lot of the things we yelled at about Hackett probably were Aaron Rodgers' fault, but I think it's undeniable, at least the last 2 weeks, and small sample size, so we'll see whether it keeps up. But Todd Downing's improved the early game script for the Jets. And I think he's made better use of formations. I think he's used more creativity than Hackett used. It's not always going to work, but getting on top of the Patriots in this game, I think that's really important for this team, just for those reasons, because I think there's an emotional aspect of it. Patriots coming back from London exhausted, lots of turmoil, it sounds like, in their locker room. Not that the Jets can talk, and a rookie quarterback. You have the chance to jump all over them early, and I think this is another. I also think that this is an opportunity for the Jets to get the run game going. And we talked about the Patriots have had issues stopping the run. That if you saw that game against Jacksonville, you saw the Jaguars run all over them. I mean, how many runs in a row did the Jaguars have at one point? 5 straight games, the Patriots have given up at least 133 yards on the ground, which is interesting because their first 2 weeks, they gave up 70 to Cincinnati and only 46 to Seattle. And if you can get the lead, you can start to focus on that run game. And maybe, the last couple of weeks, we've started to see some signs of Breece Hall breaking out of his slump. And last week it was maybe more in the passing game than the run game, but Breece had a really nice touchdown run in that game. There were a couple of runs where he started to break, where you started to see the vintage Breece Hall, the guy that's capable of doing big things for this team. So you want to keep that going, and you get an early lead. You can get the run game going. This is the type of thing that maybe carries over into future weeks. Maybe it carries into the Thursday night game that the Jets have on the horizon on Halloween night against the Houston Texans. 1 week from tonight, in 6 days, the Jets will be facing the Houston Texans on Thursday Night Football. And as much as this game matters, I feel like in some ways you almost want to get on a roll. You want to fix the things that aren't working. And I don't want to call it an exhibition because it's not an exhibition game, and it's a game the Jets could lose if they're not careful. But you want to be on a roll heading into Houston, because if you win this game and you beat Houston and you get to 4-5, it's still a really long road. Look, I don't want to give you false hope. I think it's very easy to try and give you a false hope and say at 4-5 the Jets are right back in business. This team's got a really long way to go, even if they win the next 2. But I think you want to try and get this team moving on the right track. I think you want this team playing really good football heading into Houston, because that's going to be a tough game ahead. And it's not it's one thing to win this game. I think the Jets can win this game even without playing their A game. But I think if the Jets play really well in this game, it could be a springboard. Now, it may not be. Look, we saw the Jets not use their first game against the Patriots where they couldn't have played better. That game was not used as a springboard as they've fallen into a 4-game losing streak. But if this team's going to get out of its slump, it has to play higher caliber football. And on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, on paper, it's a Patriots offense that doesn't seem that dynamic. You're going up against a rookie quarterback. You got every opportunity to kind of get healthy again. It sounds like some of the key players in the secondary are going to be back. It sounds like DJ Reed's trending towards coming back. It sounds like Michael Carter II is trending towards coming back. So it's an opportunity for defense to kind of get rolling again. Defense that kind of looked like it did when they played opponents that weren't that great. And again, you want to go into the Houston game with confidence, because Houston's going to be a really tough test, especially for that defense. So as much as this game's about winning, and it's number one's winning, it's also about getting into a role. And how the Jets win, I think they have to play well at the start. Now, look, they could always, you could always get off to have a bad first quarter and win. The Jets did that a couple times this year. But I think if you get ahead of the Patriots early, it really puts them behind the 8 ball. And it puts them in a situation they don't want to be in. They'll have to throw the ball against this pass rush with Reddick back, against the secondary that's getting healthy. And the Jets will have an opportunity to get their run game going. Now, here on the Locked On Jets podcast, I don't even want to talk about the alternative, but there's an alternative. The Jets could lose this game. I don't think it's going to happen. But there is a formula for New England to win this game, and we'll discuss it as we continue here on this Friday edition of Locked On Jets. Today's episode of Locked On Jets is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans and Jets fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Jets, despite being on a 4-game losing streak, and despite being 2-5, are 7-point favorites heading into this game against New England. I'll say it again, because it feels good for the Jets to actually be expected to win a game in Foxboro. It's been a long time since That was true. Jets 7-point favorites going into New England. So FanDuel's the place to go to get in on the action. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So if you got confidence in the Jets, head on over to FanDuel.com. Again, that's FanDuel, FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. The Locked On Jets podcast here on this Friday, talking Jets Patriots Week 8 action in Foxboro on Sunday. Kickoff time scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern. I mean, somebody's got to win this game, right? The Jets are 2-5. The Patriots are 1-6. Heading into the year, most of us expected the Patriots to be 1-6. Only the true pessimists among the Jets fan base, which, knowing this fan base, there are probably a lot of pessimists, and rightly so. But only the true pessimists thought they'd be heading into this game at 2-5, a Jets team that's been disappointing. Jets team that needs a win, and the Jets team that frankly should get a win. I mean, if we're doing a podcast on Monday talking about the Jets losing to the Patriots, it's like the disaster of disasters. And I think the Jets will win this game, but it's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody. And there is a path for the Jets to lose this game. Now, I think the path begins with the Jets not taking this game seriously, because if the Jets play their best football and the Patriots play their best football, the Jets will win this game by multiple scores. I've been pretty vocal the last couple of weeks, and I think I'm accurate on this, that this Jets team does not have anywhere near the talent level a lot of us thought it did heading into the season. Guys, it's not just guys are performing, it's that guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tyron Smith and Mike Williams just aren't as good as we were expecting them to be. And a lot of it seems like it's age or injury-related decline that we can't expect to turn around. But even with that being the case, Jets should win, because the Jets dominated these guys in week 3. And I understand divisional games, the second game doesn't always follow the path of the first game. But there was a reason the Jets dominated week 3. It's because they're way better than the Patriots. That game was an anomaly as far as how good the Jets looked, but it was not an anomaly when you consider how talented these two teams are facing each other. So how did the Patriots win? Well, number one, again, the Jets need to look past this game and be looking to Thursday Night Football. Now, I don't expect that to happen just from the standpoint that the Jets are 2-5 and on a 4-game losing streak. And when you're on a 4-game losing streak, you can't afford to look past anybody. If the Jets were actually having the season we were expecting them to have, if the Jets were 5-2 heading into this game, I actually would be a little bit more worried about this being a trap game, because the Jets have that short week ahead and a big game coming up against Houston. So Patriots would be an easy team to look past, especially the way they looked last week against Jacksonville in London, especially with them coming back from London. But with the Jets 2-5, I mean, Jets aren't good enough to have a trap game, and this is a team that clearly needs a win. So that's one of the reasons I don't expect the Patriots to win. But if it happens, it's, first of all, it's because the Jets didn't take this game seriously. Second, Drake Maye's got to have a big game for the Patriots. And as we've talked about, even really good rookies have their struggles. So the Jets, again, want to jump out on them early, put a lot on Maye's plate. But it's also possible some rookies have big games. Some rookies have big performances. And as much as I said, if the Jets jump out to a big lead, they can unleash Hassan Reddick and Will McDonald. This Jets pass rush has been inconsistent. And you have Reddick playing his first game of the season. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. We don't know how many snaps he's going to play at this moment. And outside of McDonald, the Jets really haven't gotten much of a pass rush from their defensive line so far this season. Now, I think there's some mitigating factors here. I think the Patriots' lack of receivers could lead the Jets to blitz more. Under Jeff Ulbrich, the Jets have increased their blitz level. The Jets actually blitzed the Patriots quite a bit in that first meeting, and it was kind of Robert Saleh going outside his comfort zone, in part because I think the Jets realized the Patriots didn't really have any receivers who could beat them. But, quarterback can be an equalizer. The Patriots have Drake Maye instead of Jacoby Brissett in this game. It's conceivable, it's conceivable Maye could play a big game in a way that was not really conceivable for Brissett. Maye has shown some signs since he's entered the lineup. I'm not expecting huge things from him. He's a project. He's a work in progress. There's a chance, he could make a lot of mistakes in this game, especially if the Jets put him into a bad spot, but he was drafted number 3 overall for a reason. He needs to have a big game. I think part of what New England needs to be able to run the ball effectively on the Jets. And this has not been an effective run game for New England. Jets for all the issues the Jets have had against the run game this year. They've had a lot. Week 3, the Jets shut them down again because part of it was they did not have to respect the downfield passing game for the Patriots. But a couple of years ago, Ramondre Stevenson went into MetLife Stadium and ran all over the Jets. So it's conceivable. He's a decent back. I'm not expecting it again, but Ramondre Stevenson has a big game. And the biggest thing for the Jets is, just don't make mistakes, because when you're the more talented team, the quickest way to lose the game is make unforced errors. And unfortunately, the Jets have made a lot of unforced errors. You don't want to commit penalties that stall drives. You especially can't turn the ball over because, again, against the New England offense that's been struggling as much as it has. Now, I understand most of this year they've been playing with Jacoby Brissett, but and now they have Drake Maye. But a New England offense is only averaging 14.1 points per game. That's 30th out of 32 teams. So it's, not a team that's producing a whole lot. And look, last week against Jacksonville, only 16 points. So, I don't know how much of a difference Drake Maye's really made since he stepped into the lineup. I think he gives you more upside, but I don't think that he really is enough to move the needle at this point. So the Jets can't give him short fields. Jets can't commit penalties. Jets can't do the things they've been doing. And that's part of the reason the Jets are 2-5 right now, is they've been making these mistakes. The path to an upset for New England is as much about what the Jets messing up as it is the Patriots playing well, because again, this Jets team on paper should handle the Patriots pretty easily, but on paper has been a phrase we used a lot over the last few months, and this Jets, a lot of that was the team good on paper for this Jets team hasn't proven good in reality. So look, there is an opportunity for the Patriots to win this game, but I think it's clear that the Jets are the better team and the Jets should win this game. Anyway, that's all for today's episode. This has been the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is our motto. As always, if you enjoyed this show, hit the subscribe button where you're watching or listening so you'll never miss an episode. If you enjoy the show or listening on a podcast source, please give it a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube and enjoy the show, give this episode a big thumbs up. Helps us out, helps other Jets fans find the podcast. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Enjoy the game. We'll be back after the game to break it all down.